अवतारा केने न भजिले तारे। करी निरेवास गेला न पियासा, करी निरेवास गेला न पियासा। आपन करम फेरे, कंटकेरो तारो सदाई से वेले मना। अमृत पाई वार आछे, अवतार सारा गौरावतार केने न भजने तारे। अवतार सारा प्रेम कल्पतरो श्री गौरांग अमरा। प्रेम कल्पतरो श्री गौरांग अमरा। ताहारे भाविनी वेक्षे, सौरभेर आशे पलाश सुंकिली मना। सौरभेर आशे पलाश सुंकिली मना। नाशाते पशिलो कीता, इक्षुदंड भावे कातचुशीली मना। के मने पाइबे मीठा, अवतार सारा गौरावतारा केने न भजने तारे। अवतार राम और बलिया गलाया परेली मना। शमन किंकर सापा, शीतल बलिया गुना पोहाली मना। शीतल बलिया गुना पोहाली मना। पायली वजरता पा, संसार भजले श्री गौरांग भोलिली। संसार भजले श्री गौरांग भोलिली। ना सुनिले साधुर कथा, इह परकाल दुकाल खयाली मना। खायले आपन माता, अवतार सारा गौर अवतारा केने न भजले तारे કરીને પાતા ગેલા ના પિયાસા કરીને પાતા ગેલા ના પિયાસા આપન કરમ ફેરે Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. राम राम जय सचिनंदन जय गौर हरे जय सचिनंदन जय गौर हरे राधा माधव जय राधा माधव राधा माधव जय राधा माधव प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद लीलालोचन दास ठाकुर की okay. So all of you can read this translation of this very beautiful bhajan for lack of time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं दैवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. Hare Krishna. So today we're reading from Canto 2, Chapter 1, verse number 6. Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya Janmalabha Parah Pungsam Ante Narayana Smriti. Need two Vaishnavas. Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya जन्मलाभ परापुंसा वन्दे नारायण स्मृति गीता सांख्ययोगाभ्याम् जन्मलाभ परापुंसा वन्दे नारायण स्मृति Mataji, you want to try? It's okay. Etavan, all these. Sankhya, complete knowledge of matter and spirit. Yoga, Abhyam, knowledge of mystic power. Swadharma, particular occupational duty. Parinishtaya, by full perception. Janma, birth. Labha, gain. Paraha, the supreme. Pungsam, of a person. Ante, at the end. Narayana, person of Godhead. Smriti, remembrance. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Purport: Narayana is the transcendental personality of Godhead beyond the material creation. Everything that is created, sustained, and at the end annihilated is within the compass of Mahatattva and is known as the material world. The existence of Narayana, or the person of Godhead, is not within the jurisdiction of this Mahatattva, and as such, the name, form, attributes, etc. of Narayana are beyond the jurisdiction of the material world. By speculation of empiric philosophy, which discerns matter from spirit, or by cultivation of mystic powers, which ultimately helps the performer to reach any planet of the universe or beyond the universe, or by discharge of religious duties, one can achieve the highest perfection, provided one is able to reach the stage of Narayana Smriti, or constant remembrance of person of Godhead. This is only possible by the association of a pure devotee who can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, or karmis in terms of the prescribed duties defined in the scriptures. There are many historical instances of the achievement of spiritual perfection, such as that of Sanakadi rishis or the 9 celebrated Yogendras who attained perfection only after being situated in devotional service of the Lord. None of the devotees of the Lord ever deviated from the path of devotional service by taking to other methods as adopted by the jnanis or yogis. Everyone is anxious to achieve the highest perfection of his particular activity, and it is indicated herein that such perfection is Narayana Smriti, for which everyone must endeavor his best. In other words, life should be molded in such a manner that one is able to progressively remember the person of Godhead in every step of life. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं गुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्नि गौरद्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचल निवास्याय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्रभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Krishna, so I would like to welcome all of you for today's morning Bhagavatam class from second canto, first chapter, sixth verse. So before I would start, I would like to seek blessings and prayers of all the Vaishnavas assembled here, and so that I can speak with the right attitude of service to all of you, which also includes ending the class in time, and glorification of Krishna and purification of my own heart. Okay. So, yesterday we heard such an amazing class by His Grace Vajakrishna Prabhu. Prabhuji also summarized the context in which Shukadev Goswami has begun his narration of Srimad Bhagavatam, but before that, he is making certain things clear. He has started answering the first question because Parikshit Maharaj had asked two questions: what is the duty of a person in general, and that of a dying man? And Shukadev Goswami first of all congratulated Parikshit Maharaj for asking such a wonderful question. Varya Neshate Prashnaha, such wonderful, such exalted question you have asked. And then he goes on to say what one should not do first. He says that one should not live life like a grihamedi, absorbed in body consciousness and activities that lead to bodily pleasures. And then he goes on to say that 2.1.5, maybe we can even recite that. तस्माद् भारत सर्वात्मा भगवानीश्वरो हरिः श्रोतव्य कीर्तितव्यश्च स्मर्तव्यश्चेच्छता भयम्. So, Shukadev Goswami is saying that Tasmat Sarvatma Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi. What one should do is that one should hear, chant, and remember the Supreme Lord. Why? Because that remembrance is the end goal not only of the bhaktas but of all the paths, of the followers of all paths. One second. So, like that. So, first, after summarizing what should not be done, he says what should be done, and that is to remember the Supreme Lord. So, in entire verse series from 1st to 11th, Shukadev Goswami is actually replying to the question of Parikshit Maharaj what one should do in life. And in summary, we can see one is Hari Kirtan, that is 2.1.5, other one is Hari Nama Kirtan, that is 2.1.11. एतान्निर्विद्यमानानामिच्छतामकुतो भयम् योगिनां नृपनिर्नीतं हरेर्नामानुकीर्तनम्. So Shukdev Goswami is saying that when one is engaged in Hari Kirtan and Harinama Kirtan, glorifying the name of the Lord and the fame of the Lord, then one is going to achieve perfection. But if you see in both these verses, what is the common word? One is Hari, yes, then and then okay. I don't think first one has Nam. Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi Shrotavya Kirtavyasta Smartavyasta Ichchadabhayam. Abhaya. Correct? So, Abhaya means fearlessness. Fearlessness for what? This is no matter of laugh and joke. Shukadev Goswami is saying that Abhaya of death, one has to achieve fearlessness of death, and that can only be achieved not by following Sankhya, not by following swadharma, means karmis, their path, not by following yoga. Rather, only by remembering the Supreme Lord, one can actually attain fearlessness. But fearlessness of what? Fearlessness of death. But a devotee is not fearful of death. Correct, no? Janma, in Shikshashtakam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that birth after birth I am ready to come. And he is symbolizing the heart of a pure devotee. So a devotee is not afraid of death. Then why is the two essential verses that talk about what we should do in life dealing with only the fear of death? When the devotee is not fearful of death. Why? So it's not for us. So we'll speak these verses to the new people. Saturday program. No, it's for all of us. And it's also for Parikshit Maharaj, who is on the verge of death. Right? Then, okay, it's for the conditioned souls. First, we have to overcome the fear of death. Okay? Yeah. So it is also for us who are conditioned. Most of us are conditioned. And conditioned to think that we are the body. And hence, death also, the fear of death also applies for us. Correct? But and another thing is, the greater than the fear of death is actually fear of forgetfulness of Krishna. Like Prahlad Maharaj also in his prayers, he says that on one side he says that Krishna or Lord Narasimha, I'm not afraid of death. Trastosmyaham kripanavatsala duhsahogra samsara chakra kadanan grasatam pranitaha. He says that even if when I'm put under the samsara chakra to be crushed by the chakra of samsara, that is very fearful. On the other hand, just few verses later he says, नैवोद्विजे परदुरत्यय वैतरण्यास् त्वद्वीर्यगायनमहामृतमग्नचित्तः. That because my consciousness is always immersed in your remembrance, I have no fear of death. So is he self-contradicting? So what he's on one side he's saying, I'm afraid of birth and death, I'm afraid of samsara chakra. On the other side he's saying, I have no fear because I'm always remembering you. Then why does he make this contradiction? Because the fear of death actually, like even we see Krishna is saying 240, Neha Vikramanashrosti Pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. One can overcome the greatest fear. What is the greatest fear? Hmm? Hmm? Okay. Gliding down to lower species. So long that verse is concerned, it is gliding down to lower species. But from all these verses, we understand that the greatest fear for a devotee is not just death. I'll tell you why it is death in this context, but it's actually not death, it is forgetfulness of Krishna. Why Prahlad Maharaj is saying, who's always remembering Krishna, Krishna Graha Grihit Atma, he's saying, I'm afraid of samsara. Because a devotee's heart is that, what if through repeated cycles of birth and death in this world, I may end up in, already I'm born in demoniac family, demoniac race. I had a father like Hiranyakashipu. In next birth, I might have a mother like that. I might have a brother like that. I might have the family members like that, relatives like that, friends like that. So through Asat Sangha, I can forget you, Krishna. And that is the mood in which they're expressing their fear. Correct? Now, why in this verse, it talks about these two verses, the Tasmat Bharat Sarvatma Neta Nirvidyamananam. Both of them say how to overcome fear of death by remembering the Supreme Lord. But why fear of death? Because the phenomenon of death for the conditioned souls extracts out the substance within the heart. Now, full life we can pretend to be a devotee, but at the time of death we are exposed. Correct? Just like anything in relation to the body for a conditioned soul who thinks he's the body, if that is lost, he becomes very much insecure, fearful, afraid, confused, bewildered, sometimes agitated, angry, and he goes in a mode of denial also. Like many patients we see that you say, tell them that I'm very sorry that you've been diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer, and then they go in, no, it's not possible. It's not possible. I have my kid. How can I die? That's a mode of denial. And then they come to mode of acceptance. Then they go into depression, frustration. So the whole point is that the denial can also be a reaction. But the thing is, even if we lose something in relation to the body, because we identify with the body so strongly, even that loss can mean a lot to us. For example, if you're given a job opportunity and you lose it, it breaks your heart, correct? If you lose a loved one, it breaks your heart. Or, if you, so anything like that. So it may be a thing, a person, whatever it may be. If it is connected to your body and you lose that, it creates so much um, emotional turmoil in our heart because we're attached to that. And what to speak of the root of all that illusion that is the body. If that is lost, how much bewilderment, how much confusion, how much absorption in that loss will be there. That's why King Kulshekar Alwar is saying, Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam Adhyaiva me virshatu manasa raja hamsa prana prayana samaye kafavata pittai kanthavaro vidau smaranam kutaste. Now, the absorption of King Kulshekar Alwar was such that he thought Lord Ramajay was walking in with a whole, Saina, that means his army, into the ocean. That was his absorption. And now he's thinking that at the time of death, he may not be able to remember Krishna because the bodily absorption is so great. Of course, what comes out of the heart or of the, in the words of a pure devotee, out of his humility, is actually true for us. It may not be so true for them, that's out of the humility, but for us, it's very much true. So, when the body is succumbing to the pangs of time at the time of death, then it is very, very painful because the root of our illusion is that body. And that's why the fear of death is so much stressed. That the answer to Parikshit Maharaj's questions is essentially in two. One is Harinama Smaran, other one is Hari Smaran, Narayan Smaran, Narayan Smrti. Correct? So both of them, what it happens, what Shukdev Goswami is saying, if you are interested to overcome the bhaya of death, Ichchata Abhayam. So the first was Smartavya cha Ichchata Abhayam. Second one also Ichchatam Akuto Bhayam. Both, if you're desirous of overcoming that fear of death, then you take to this process. Okay, so that's why death is so much stressed here. Otherwise, as devotees, usually we don't see that devotees are so much concerned about death. But in our conditioned state, because we identify with the body, which becomes the root of illusion in our life, at the time of death, it actually becomes difficult to remember Krishna. Understood? So we may think that we are remembering Krishna, we're chanting 16 rounds, unless and until we have actually accepted Krishna wholeheartedly within the core of our hearts. At the time of death, it is not possible to remember Krishna. And Parikshit Maharaj has only 7 days left to meet that verily end. And that's why Shukadev Goswami says, Oh Parikshit Maharaj, you are very interested, and similarly, anyone who is interested to achieve such an end, that is death, without fearing it, with confidence that he will make it back home, back to Godhead, he should hear about Krishna and chant his holy names. Okay, so in this verse we see Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam. All these paths, which are Sankhya, which is analyzing matter, and Yogabhyam means the yogic process to attain mystic powers, and Swadharma. Swadharma means one's own duties as per religious scriptures ideally, but in practical correlation, all activities we do, fruitive activities. Swadharma Parinishthaya, Janma Labha Paraha. So Labha Paraha, the supreme-most Labha that one can attain is only Narayana Smriti. So in Bhakti, the Anga of Bhakti which can give you perfection of Bhakti is Shravan Kirtan, etc., like including Smaran. But what is the Anga of other paths? Karma Yoga Jnana, to give you the perfection. What is the Anga of Karma Jnana and Yoga? It is said the only Anga of Karma Jnana Yoga to give you the perfection of Narayana Smriti is to give up those paths and adopt Bhakti. That is the only Anga. Otherwise, in and of itself, it has no, they don't have any power to give you Narayana Smriti. So Etavan, all these paths of Sankhya, Yoga and Swadharma and Parinishthaya, Janmalabha Parapumsam, any person who wants Janma Labha Para, that means ultimate um, perfection, paripurnata of these paths, should understand that it only when they culminate in Narayana Smriti, then it is perfect. Otherwise, it's not perfect. Just like rivers, the paripurnata of perfection is when it enters the ocean, it's complete. You create a dam in the river, then it's incomplete. Its journey is halted. Similarly, our journey, the journey of the spirit soul, is only completed when it attains Krishna or Narayana Smriti. Okay, that's what the verse says. And why Narayana Smriti? Because Prabhupada explains beautifully in the first part of the purport that the entire world is in 24 elements. That's what the Sankhya people do. So the Sankhya means analysis of matter, the 24 elements. You have the 10 jnana and karmendriyas, the 10 tan matras, and sorry, 5 tan matras, and the 5 what do you say, Panch Mahabhut, the Mahabhut, okay, elements. And then after that is the mind, intelligence, ego, and then one more we're missing. Time is also there, 24. Soul is 25th. Yeah, Chitta. So like this 24 elements. So just analyzing this is part of Sankhya. And also those who use this to analyze between matter and spirit, that is also Sankhya. Now there were two Kapila. One is Bhagavan Kapila, son of and so one is that Kapila, Bhagavan Kapila. The other is the Sankhya Kapila, atheistic Kapila. Prabhupada explains. So what is the difference between the two? Both of them taught Sankhya Yoga. So what is the difference? No, not in the personality. One is Bhagavan, one is Tuchya Jiva. But what about what else is the difference in what they taught? Conclusion, how? Sankhya by nature is Sankhya, like only matters. You want to expand on that? Okay. You want to add something? Okay. You want to add something? Bro? Yeah, like what Yogesh could explain. Yes, correct. So the Sankhya philosophy propounded by Bhagavan Kapila leads to Antanarayana Smriti. Whereas atheistic Kapila Sankhya does not lead to Narayana Smriti. So that is the difference. Now, if we see why Narayana Smriti is talked about, because in this world, just if you analyze matter, you don't find soul also. What to speak of super soul? So the whole Prabhupada explains in the jurisdiction of the material cosmos, Narayana does not come under that, right? Because he is Paratattva. He is not this Tattva. He is Paratattva. He is transcendental Tattva. So if Narayana Smriti is obtained by any path, automatically the Jiva gets freed from material entanglement. But then the question comes, what about the Mayavadis? What about the impersonalists, impersonalists? Because they are aspiring to merge in Brahman. Is Brahman not para to material cosmos? It is. So then, so they are also along with Narayana Smriti, Brahman Smriti should also be the goal, correct? No, but it's not. Yes. So in which means that they're not fully freed from material entanglement. Correct, no? Otherwise, they'll not come back. So what keeps them bound? What they're not freed from? Okay, desire to enjoy, envy of Krishna. Yeah, like same. Basically, it's the false ego in the mode of goodness. Yeah. That's false ego in the mode of goodness, which binds the Brahmavadis also to this material world. So they're not freed. So they're not on Shuddha Sattva. Why? Because there is a tinge of false ego, which is in the mode of goodness that is binding them. And that's why Narayana Smriti is the only goal that is perfect. Even Brahman is not perfect because they come back. Yene ravindaksha vimuktamanina tvayasta bhava avishuddha buddhaya आरुह्य कृच्छ्रेण परम पदम तथा पतन्त्यदो अनादुत युष्मदंग्रयः. So those who have not cultivated Narayana Smriti, attachment to the lotus feet of Krishna, they will come back. Correct? So that's why Narayana Smriti is the only goal, and whatever a person may be doing. Now there are so many paths because the Jiva through lifetimes has associated with the modes in such a way that different paths have to be made for him to walk on. Correct? Because of a psychophysical nature. But ultimately, the Jiva's self-interest is in serving Krishna and loving Krishna and remembering Krishna. So whatever one may be or whatever position one may be in, wherever he may be situated, unless until he connects to Krishna, until it culminates in Narayana Smriti, it is a waste of time. Right? That's why the Vaishnava understanding, there are certain Mayavadi concepts and Vaishnava understanding of those concepts. For example, oneness. We know oneness of the Mayavadis. But what is the oneness of the Vaishnavas? The Vaishnava understanding of oneness? Huh? No, that's not the oneness. Actually, even in quality, we are not equal to Krishna. For example, if a drop of water you take, chemical composition is same, but can you find a Timingla fish in drop of water? No, but you can find it in ocean. So even quality, actually, we are not same. Yes, aligning with the desire of the Supreme Lord. That is the oneness. Not my will, let thy will be done. So that is oneness. What about moksha? The moksha of the Brahmavadis is different, and the moksha of the Vaishnavas is different. What is the moksha of the Vaishnavas? Okay, that's the nature of the jiva. So attain that original position. Yes. Mukti hitvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. To become established, re-established in our original position is moksha. Similarly, another concept of the Mayavadis is that all paths lead to one goal. Correct? In this verse, we understand the Vaishnava understanding of that. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Bhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya. Different paths. But all of them can lead to perfection. Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smritihi. So, correct, no? So, correct, no? Mayavadi philosophy of all paths lead to one goal is same. Both the concepts are same. What is the difference between Mayavadi understanding and Vaishnava understanding? Yeah. For example, Mayavadis say that because everyone is Brahman, even if you remember your wife at the time of death, you'll attain perfection. Because she's Brahman. But we don't say that. We say at the end of life, we should remember Krishna or Narayana. So then you will get perfection. So wherever a person may be situated, that jnane prayasamutapasya namanteva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam sthane stitaha shrutigatan tanuvan manobhir ye prayashu ajita jitopi asitaistralokyam. So even the Supreme Lord can be conquered if a person, whether Sankhya, Yoga, Bhyam or Swadharma Parinishthaya, if he is situated in those paths, but connects himself to Krishna voluntarily, then all paths actually lead to the same goal. Understood, no? So that can be harmonized with Vaishnava philosophy if we connect to Krishna. Otherwise, the road going to Delhi will go to Delhi only, not Mangalore. Understood, no? But if you want to come to Mangalore, then you can go to Delhi, take a flight, and come to Mangalore. So you have to put the voluntary endeavor to connect to Krishna. Then all paths lead to one goal. Understood, no? Otherwise, you just say that this I keep on walking on this road, it will come. That won't be possible. Understood, no? So like that. So even Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda, he said once, because some of his disciples came to him and said, Swamiji, we are not able to control our minds. And then he said that just see the bhaktas. What I understand is that bhaktas have got the butter and you are simply left with the buttermilk. Because they have so much shraddha in Krishna that they are able to control their minds and you people are not able to do so. So unless until Narayana Smriti is there, actually perfection on any of the paths is not possible. Hmm. Yeah. So if we come to different yogic paths or whatever the paths have been elaborated here, the Sankhya or the for the jnanis and Yoga Bhyam for the yogis and Swadharma Parinishthaya for the karmis. So these paths by in and of themselves cannot give you perfection even in that path. For example, if a karmi has to go to heaven, he has to depend on the Supreme Lord Narayana. Understood? Because all the rituals mentioned in the Karma Kanda literature is such that you have to at the end at least once say Krishna or Narayana or any of the names of Vishnu in order for your progress to happen on that path. So they themselves, the paths themselves cannot award you their own perfection. No, I'm not saying ultimate perfection, Krishna Smriti. No. Even if you want to progress on the path of Karma Jnana or Yoga, you need Krishna's help. Correct? So what to speak of if they have to what do you call, so basically I'm saying that the paths in and of themselves cannot give you any kind of perfection. You have to depend on Krishna. So if we see Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in the chapters of Karma Yoga again and again and again explains that he gives clue, but the ultimate perfection is surrender unto me. From the beginning itself he starts. So even if you see second chapter, he's talking about karmani vadikaritama paleshu kadachana, all that he says. But then 2.61 he says, Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha. So if you want to become sthita prajna, which is very dear to me, what you should do? Often engage, control your senses, or engage them in my seva, then only you will be able to do so. Otherwise, till then he said do nishkama karma, which is very difficult. Correct? When you are neutral amidst heat and cold, sukha dukkha, man apman, then you can actually transcend. You can get jnana, this and that. Krishna said, but then he said he puts a clue in between that. Only if you do that to me, then only you can do it. And if you engage your senses and mind and intelligence in me, then you can attain the perfection of karma yoga also. And then even in third chapter he says 3.30, which is Mai sarvani karmani sanyasadyatma chetasaha. So, Mai Sarvani Karmani. If you do all your activities for me and become detached from the fruits and from understanding that I am the doer, the fruits belong to me, Ahankara and Mamakara, if you become detached and fight with great vigor, then that's perfection. Why? Because you're doing it for me. So, like that, throughout, he keeps saying that even 2.45 Traigunya Vishaveda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Arjuna, I'm telling you Sakama Karma is good. But actually, if you go too much into Vedas, it tells you so much Karma Kanda that it only keeps you bound here. But the perfection of any path is not to get bound but to get liberated. But the path in and of itself cannot give you liberation unless and until you connect to me through yoga, right? And like that, even later on, he says, Tat Kurushva Madarpanam, whatever you do, that you should offer it to me. And also, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Dharma Swanushtita Pungsam Vishwaksena Katasu Yaha Na Utpade Yadiratim Shamai Vahi Kevalam. So, whatever we are doing, it will become a Shrama only. That means Shrama is not bad, but it ends only in Shrama. There's no fruit only to enjoy. You work all day and get something, then it's good. But you work all day and you don't get anything, then it's not very good. So in that way, if we don't get Rati for Krishna, all our work and endeavors in this world remain at the level of Shrama without bearing the fruit. Hence, it becomes without Narayan Smaran, any karma becomes a waste of labor. Similarly, if we have to see a practical life, if we are doing so much management in the temple, maybe from construction or preaching or just the internal management, etc., all management, what is the goal? Ante Narayana Smriti. If that is not happening, then it is waste of time. So the goal of how to do time management, stress management, lifestyle management, what is the goal? Antinayana Smriti. When that goal is fixed, then you arrange your life or modulate your life. Like Prabhupada says, you mold your life in such a manner that you can remember Krishna progressively your entire life. Then if you keep and fix the goal of Narayana Smriti, then what happens is it becomes very easy. Time management, life management, whatever management. But when that goal is little shaky and your own agendas keep creeping in, I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, I am the proprietor, those goals also somehow contaminate Narayana Smriti. And then what happens? Then you have to scratch your head couple of times to do management and this and that. Why? Because it's not pure. There's confusion because there's Tattva Vibrama. That's why confusion is there. Oh, what to do? What to do? I'm not understanding. Why you're not understanding? Because I should make it as Narayan Smriti, but actually I want to somehow be benefited. Then what happens is it becomes difficult. But simple management of life happens when the Narayana Smriti goal is established. Understood? So this is Sankhya path. If you see yoga, even yoga attains perfection through bhakti only. Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino. So if the yogi is attained perfection when they meditate on the Supreme Lord with bhakti. And even Krishna himself says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmanaha shraddhavan bhajate yo mam sam same yuktatamo mataha. Correct? One who is most connected with me, yuktatamaha. Such a person is actually of the best of the yogis. And we see Shabri Muni, who was doing so much great tapasya, but because he went against the Lord, it was not favorable for Narayana Smriti, the way he was performing his austerity, because he developed pride and he, offended Garuda, that led to fall down. Correct? On the other hand, Haridas Thakur, he did not care about performing austerities for the heck of mystic powers, but we know that how much mystic power he had. Correct? Similarly, Narottam Das Thakur. Similarly, when Prabhupada was asked, bhakti can lead to mystic power, then Prabhupada said, yes, if you see there, so many temples in the entire world and so many devotees are there, then that is not an ordinary task. That also is mysticism, right? So in that way, a bhakta who is on the platform of Narayana Smriti automatically already is endowed with the fruits of all other paths. He doesn't have to worry about it. Just like who says Bilawangal Thakur that Mukti, the lady personifying Mukti, she stands at the doorstep with in Anjali Mudra, right, waiting to be accepted. And if you see the Jnanis, we already discussed Yenyaravanda Aksha, Vimuktamaninaha. So without connecting to Krishna, they fall down. If they connect to Krishna, what happens? Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti. They can, if they come to that platform of Vasudeva Sarvamiti, then that person has attained perfection, and that's why he's rare. Understood? So in this way, the perfection of every path in and of itself also depends on bhakti. And if they want to get the ultimate perfection of Narayana Smriti, definitely they have to surrender to Krishna. Okay. So if you see some more examples of the karmis like Prachina Barhishad, he was performing so many yajnas to get fruits of the yajnas. But then Narad Muni came, he gave the allegorical story of Puranjan, and then he said, "Oh my dear sage, till now nobody told me this. All the priests who are guiding me, they told me that you should perform yajna and this and that. Now I understand the goal of Narayana Smriti is not ordinary. Even so many so-called sages are bewildered. It's not easy to understand." And then we see Yamunacharya. He also got carried away in his ruling the kingdom and enjoying the pleasures of this world. But later, because the association of pure devotee, Nath Muni had sent his disciple to guide him, then he again became devotee. Correct? So that's what Prabhupada explains, that without a devotee who can give the finishing touch to the transcendental paths, nobody can actually attain Narayana Smriti. And Ajamila is the literal example of this whole thing. So it is said that at the time of death, even though he called out for his son, because at the time of death he did Ante Narayana Smriti, like literally called out to Narayana at the time of death, and he got perfection. And Gajendra is another one. Sontasarasura balena grihita artho दृष्ट्वा गरुत्मतिहरिं कौपातचक्रम् उक्षिप्य साम्बुजकरं गिरमाह कृच्छ्रा नारायणाखिल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते. So he also at the time of death remembered Narayana, like literally. So like that. And Sanakadi Rishis also we know that they were Brahmavadis, they're completely self-realized sages, but they not have rati for Krishna. And because of that, they were not perfect. But by the association of the personality of Godhead himself, they got transformed. Tasya Aravinda Nayanasya Padaravinda किञ्जल्कमिश्र तुलसी मकरन्दवायु अन्तर्गतः स्वविवरेण चकार तेषां संक्षोभमक्षरजुषामपि चित्ततन्वो. That when they got the fragrance of tulsi from the lotus feet of the Lord, the whole chitta got transformed, Sanshobham. That a Brahmavadi became a great devotee. And the seventh verse, sixth and seventh verse, Shukadev Goswami himself is saying that is, the practical example of this, that, Ante Narayana Smrti is a perfection, is myself. Because I myself was a great self-realized sage that I hesitated to come out of the womb. But when I came into this world, I ran immediately without any care, and I could not see any difference between a tree, nor could and the naked women. For him, everything was same. But when he heard the description of Krishna, describing compassion and beauty of Krishna, his heart was so much conquered that he ran back to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And he goes on to say that Srimad Bhagavatam I'll recite to you, O Parikshit. So like that. So even he was, that's why we have that verse, no? Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirganta Nirganta Chorukrami. Api Nirganta Api Urukrame. Then Ahaitu Kim Bhaktim Ittam Bhutu Guna Hari. So Ittam Bhutu means wonderful. Those wonderful qualities are in Hari that even the self-realized sages like Sanakadi Rishis and Shukadev Goswami, everyone becomes attracted to Krishna. And sometimes when Mayavadis, they also become. See, you don't see devotees becoming Mayavadis, Karmi and Jnani. No. That's why Prabhupada explains the purport. Devotees never get deviated. But if you see the other path followers, they easily take up bhakti, even a Mayavadi. So there's the example of Madhusudan Vachaspati or Madhusudan Saraswati. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita also it comes. So I think he was the Vedantic guru of Jiva Goswami also, and so many other things he has done. So early in his life, he came across Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach him Nyaya, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused because he was a Mayavadi. But he had great taste for bhakti. Later on, he went befriended Tulsi Das, etc., etc. And once he was like, he would take so much pride in defeating others in argument. He was very staunch Advaita scholar, very exalted in that way. And then once he was, having a debate with a devotee of Banki Bihari. And then the Banki Bihari devotee said, who am I? He said, you're Brahman. Okay, then why are you taking so much pleasure in defeating Brahman? Then he got so much bewildered just by that statement. He went back to Varanasi and then he was meditating and then he developed Bhakti for Krishna by association of this devotee of Banki Bihari. So, and then he composed this very nice verse that Vanshi Vibhushita Karanavaneeradhavan पीतांबर अरुण बिंब पलाधरोष्टान पूर्णेन्दु सुंदर मुखारविंद नेत्रान कृष्णात् परम किमपि तत्त्वम् अहम न जाने. I do not know of truth higher than Krishna, whose hand is adorned with the flute, who shines like the fresh clouds, who wears the yellow cloth, whose lips are red as a bimba fruit, whose face is as attractive as that of the full moon, and eyes that of the lotus. By Madhusudan Saraswati. In his book Advaita Siddhi Sara Sangraha. It's a Mangala Shloka, verse number 2. So, how much, Of course, till then, that's what I read, that he maintained his external persona as a Advaita scholar. But in his heart, he was relishing bhakti. Whenever he would meet Tulsidas, he had exchanges of bhakti. Like that. But a devotee never deviates. Right? And to end with, Prabhupada explains that one should have progressive remembrance of the Supreme Lord on the path of bhakti. Why progressive? Because we are all progressing towards that that call of death, which will squeeze out the inner substance of the heart. We cannot do any cover up there. At the time of death, a person can be naked. He can pass urine and stool, and everyone is watching. So there's no cover up of any kind, even gross and even subtle, as subtle as in the chitta. So everything comes out. Some people at the time of death, they remember their attachments of wife or land or property or their hatred, their vengeance, their grudge. All those things come out. And if we are not remembering Krishna, then it's so unfortunate. Correct? And that's why that is what creates fear in the heart of devotee, that I might be doing everything, but what if actually I don't have Rati for Krishna? And so it's a matter of introspection where we have to go back and think, really, who do I love? Who do I have my heart invested in this world? Who or what? Correct? And one symptom of that is, where do we invest our time? Correct? So time and thought. So sometimes time, sometimes it may mislead because you may be in different vritti or work, occupation, etc., etc. And otherwise, in the other ashram, you may be fully free. But where your mind is where you are. Correct. Like that. So, where is our thought invested in? What are the thoughts that I keep getting? That is where we have given our heart. Right. So, that's why when Prabhupada explains that we should mold our life in such a way that we have progressive remembrance of Krishna, that means everything, like how we deal with devotees, like it is, or how we deal with the people of this world. Like there's a poem by one, I think, Christian saint. He says that when people, I'm paraphrasing, it's a big, like, substantial this one. He says that when people try, when people treat you harshly, just be humble, and but you give them kindness. If people are rude to you, you respond to them politely. And when people do something bad to you, you be good to them. Why? Because in the ultimate chapter, it was never between them and you. It was always between you and God. Understand? Huh? So how our consciousness should transform such that we are not actually seeing and blaming everyone and simply becoming busy in interacting with the modes of material nature. Rather, we get absorbed in this kind of transcendental consciousness that everything is between me and Guru or Krishna. And then we know how to deal in this world, how to work in this world, how to behave in this world, and how to, you know, do our morning program. Because many a times the go after morning program, after end of Bhagavatam also, Ante Narayana Smrti doesn't happen. Then that means when the morning program has become, of course, स्वल्पम अप्यस्य धर्मस्य तयति महतो भयात्, but it's we are not actually reaping the full fruit of what we have been given. And that's how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has descended in this world. Why we did that? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come here to give that fruit of not just Krishna Prem, it's Vraja Prem. Because Krishna Prem can happen even in Dasya Bhav. It can happen even in Vatsalya. But that of Vraj, that is unheard of. It's unprecedented. It is presented because they in the Shastra, but in the point is for a very, very long time it's not been given. Correct? So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given, and we are taking that to be like you saw. I think from the pictures you could make out the meaning. I wanted to taste something sweet, but I went for sense gratification. Like the camel is tasting thorns, so I'm tasting the thorns of this world to be sweet, but actually that's giving me blood. And when Prema Kalpataru Sri Gauranga Amar, when our Lord Chaitanya has come to give the fruit of Krishna Prem, then we say, no, no, no. Bhavili Vishay. I think this is poison. So, like that, I want to taste something or smell something fragrant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given the whole garland of Shuddha Prema. That flower we can take the fragrance of. But I want to take something of this world, and a kita enters the nose, the insect. Means basically sense gratification gives us so much trouble. Yet we reject the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and accept the lotus feet of Maya Devi in her various encumbrances. So in this way, unless and until we can, I keep my laptop on, you will not feel like stopping. So, etavan sankhya yogabhyam, uh, swadharma parinishthaya. So whatever path we may be in, whichever situation we may be situated in, if we can connect to Krishna, to remember Krishna, and make the goal of every activity, not only at the end of life, but every activity Narayana Smrti, then at the end of life, it's no surprise that, like when, and with this, Radhanath Maharaj had a very high fever, like 103 or something like that, and he was in a delirium. You believe the temperature goes to one state, you become confused and delirious. So he was in a delirium, and all the things that were coming out of his mouth was all the demons of Rajlila. And he said, "Oh, Trinavarta, this, that," and this actual delirium. But in the hospital, doctors are there. It's not made by some fan following. So actually, it was in a delirium. You cannot fake that. So he was just shouting out the names of various demons of Rajlila. So like that, when the body goes to a certain state, and because we identify with that, you can not maintain your consciousness. What is inside has to come outside. And so now it is our responsibility and exercise to think what is there in our heart. Is it Krishna or other than Krishna? Krishna or Krishna Itara, right? And like that, let us remember that the goal of everything we do is Ante Narayana Smrtihi, and that is achieved by constant chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. And I started 5 minutes late, so anyone who's keeping a track of that. Prananda Krishna Chandra. So class is officially ended here. So anyone who has your work and other vrittis to carry on with, kindly. Any swadharmas or sankhya or yoga abhyam, kindly continue. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. What question?
So I want to understand this here that from like Bhakti nobody comes to other class, but we see that like when we were going from to Bhakti Gata, we met a person so he was earlier already there to Bhakti community and that is down that he was said he said I am not putting and he left that profession now to practicing some you are and so we see like we were earlier practicing for only some here that when it was comfort they go the way they try to find another path.
Yeah. The question is that there are many people, though Prabhupada explains that a devotee never deviates, but we see so many examples in this world that people have practiced standard 16 rounds, read Prabhupada books, still they don't, follow. I mean, still they deviate to other paths, correct? And even in ISKCON, we see that many people come chant 16 rounds for a few years and then still leave and go away, right? Yeah. So the whole point is, many a times or most of the times, they have not actually tasted or practiced bhakti in the heart. Many times the bhakti is only a external performance. So in such case, a person has not become a bhakta yet. So a person has not elevated himself to the consciousness of Narayana Smrti, and then if he goes away to other thing, that's natural. Like a person who is actually a karmi in heart, and externally he thought something he'll get, he'll pass exam by coming to Krishna Bhakti. He came, but he thought I don't have to study. Then he failed his exam. So then he'll think, okay, that means this doesn't work. So he went back. How come? How is it possible? So actually, at heart, he was a karmi only. He wanted something else other than Krishna. He has not tasted even a fraction of the drop of the ocean of Krishna, rasa. So for such a person, he's not become a bhakta. He's not tasted bhakti. So naturally, they get drifted away. Correct. And many times, even in ISKCON, when we see they go away, but they go away from association because sometimes association is a little immature. They're like offensive, criticize, etc., etc. So they go away from association and practice separately. Many times start their own groups. Many people, many devotees start their own groups. They try to propagate bhakti within their own way, by their own way. Sometimes they don't like the too much dogmatic approach. They want to be little freestyle. They want to wear anything. They want dhoti kurta. So, but in the heart, they don't want to leave Krishna. They still glorify Krishna. Externally, they may not comply with all the details. That's all. But that is still following. Understood? No? If someone is leaving, that is only because they have not tasted bhakti. Yes.
So they told there although that static process they are not practicing. How do you recognize that it is practicing the heart and how to practice?
Okay. So, how to practice in the heart? stay in stay in the association of devotees, read and hear from devotees. Actually, what gives finishing touch to different paths, even in our own hearts. So we may come where Dhoti Kurta chant for a few years. That doesn't mean we have become pure devotees. Correct, na? So even the other marga of jnana, yoga, and karma still lurks in our heart, and that's why we have so many other hetu than Krishna when we perform bhakti, because those still attachments, that inclinations are there in our heart. Karma inclination, yoga inclination, jnana inclination. But because intellectually we have understood Krishna, we want to divert it and use it in Krishna seva, engage in Krishna seva like that. But what gives the finishing touch to all the other paths and establishes one solidly on the path of bhakti? Well, it's a quiz question from Prabhupada's purport. Who can answer? What gives a finishing touch? Except Arvind Deb. Hmm? To Maya. Okay. Yes, Kshitij Prabhu. Yes, the pure devotees. They give the association of pure devotees. Of course, Manor Prabhu, Arvind Deb Prabhu, everyone. Vishnuvardhan Prabhu, they're fully well versed with this knowledge. So association of devotees is what gives us, and not just devotees, with all due respect to all the devotees of all categories, but the whole point is in the initial neophyte stage, association of senior devotees who are mature and have that understanding of Krishna. Their association is more important. Like Sundar Sham Prabhu says, in the initial thing, if you take more of equal association, you'll be finished because neophyte fight neophyte. They keep only fighting, and or they will favor one another's illusory understanding, correct? But if you associate with superiors who are mature and well versed, who have attained at least nishtha, then you can transform. So Prabhupada says associate of pure devotees, like that. You understood, no? The finishing touch by pure devotee, that is the one thing which can actually transform, take us from one marga to Krishna bhakti. Otherwise very difficult. Yes, sure. Madhusudan Vachaspati. Those are needs of the time. Needs of the time, the environment, or probably that's how we could. I could not get more information, so I don't know. But that's what it seems like. That there was a need of the time, so that he could propagate bhakti. That's all. Okay. Of course, there's many Mayavadis who got converted to bhakti that time, but they would not openly say because it was predominant. Even why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, took sannyas diksha, no, from Mayavadi school because that was a demand of the time. So like that only here also. We hear that song, no? Pibare Ramarasam Rasane Pibare Ramarasam. So he's saying that, oh tongue, drink the nectar of Lord Ram's name. It is composed by not Bhakta, I mean not Vaishnava. It is composed by Mayavadi. So understanding is probably he was a Vaishnava. He got attracted by Vaishnava school. But he could that time Vaishnava was a full minor school. Understood? Na? And how can you say that I got converted to bhakti? So nobody will accept. Not that they cared about it, but to function in the society, then it's not easy. Like that. Yes. Hare Krishna. So you can end this. Otherwise, it will show very long recording.